secret ambition to be a musician? You light up when it comes to music. You must be a big music lover.
I'll tell you what, Ricky, you're quite perceptive. I've always wanted to be a songwriter, and a couple of years ago, a legitimate Nashville country music songwriter who's had a number of number one hits. He came down to our show one day, and he wanted to write a song about our show. And I went up to Muscle Shoals to his studio, and we wrote a country song. Now, listen, I am good with words. I'm not good with instruments. He played the guitar and helped me construct the song because I had never done it. I had a blast. He recorded it, and we play it every now and then, and it's and we never tried to sell it because it was just more for fun. But yeah, if I could go to Nashville or Hollywood tomorrow, I would be a songwriter.
The Paul Feinbaum Show, weekdays at 3 Eastern on the ESPN app and on the SEC network.
Stephen A. Smith.
If Myles Garrett is right, shame on Mason Rudolph. If Myles Garrett is not telling the truth, shame on Myles Garrett. Time will tell. Myles Garrett would have had a better case if he said he called it a B word. Something like that. The only reason I say that is because there's a whole bunch of black players around. If he had spewed that word, they might have heard him. They heard him. I can assure you there's a problem.
Catch Stephen A. weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Napa know-how.
Just in time for the holidays, select Craftsman tools are now available at Napa. Celebrate with a Craftsman 20-volt cordless impact wrench kit for just $149.99. It's the perfect gift for everyone on your list, even you. So get great savings on select Craftsman tools, now available at your local Napa store. Quality parts, helpful people. That's Napa know-how.
Napa know-how.
At participating Napa Auto Parts stores while supplies last. Offer ends 12/31/19.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. 30% of Americans who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more will pay for those renovations with a high-interest credit card. That may not be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.99%, APR 4.18%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rates subject to change. Pay 1.375% fee to receive the discounted rates. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
1 minute.
It may not be stomach issues.
For me, it's intense gas, or pain, or diarrhea, sometimes all at once, over and over.
I spent years with the symptoms, but could never figure it out.
No matter what I did, they never went away. So I decided to break it down for my doctor and get really specific.
We discovered that exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI, may be the reason for my stomach issues.
EPI is caused by my pancreas. It leads to diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, unexplained weight loss, and oily stools. The symptoms just don't go away.
But EPI can show up with even one symptom.
The good news? EPI is manageable.
But to get to the right diagnosis, you have to break it down for your doctor and get specific about the severity of your symptoms.
Visit identifyepi.com to learn more and use the symptom checker to help change the conversation with your doctor. Brought to you by AbbVie.
ESPN Kansas City is KCTE Independence and K233 GM Raytown. 1510 AM, 94.5 FM.
It's all fun and games till we get into the ring, and then you find out who's softer than Aquafina. If you can't stand the heat, stay away from my arena, cause all I bring is heat. You can call me jalapeno, keep my name out your mouth unless you're trying to sing accolades that you get from seeing the champion. Belt, trophy, your ring. If you gotta show your bling, then tune in to this shit where we talk about it, man. But if you tune in, you better know it's showtime. And every time he speak, man, he gonna speak his mind. Keeping the straight facts while others they just assume we're keeping it 100 while faking there's no room. With the livest interviews and the hottest guests, you done dealt with the rest, now roll with the best. But before I forget, let me get back to the script. Introduce you to the host of the shit, Darren Smith.
Good morning and welcome to the show here live on ESPN Kansas City 94.5 FM and 1510 AM, and of course Facebook Live and 1510.com. We are live inside the locker room here at KCTV5. Of course, my co-host, Mr. Steve Walls. We are here live with the sports director of Kansas City TV5, And co-host of the Locker Room is Danny Wilniak. Danny, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on the show, number one. And number two, thank you for coming into my domain today. I love my Locker Room set. This is
I love it too. I know Steve does. I know Steve got a chance to be a part of this. And I tell people all the time, I say, I don't know why more people don't like trying to do something like this or do it from a location like this. And so when I got a chance to ask and you all said sure, I was like, okay, let's get it done. Let's do it.
Look, not a whole lot of people are thinking outside the box like you are. So to all of your listeners out there and viewers, this guy doing some serious work in Kansas City. So to come up with this idea and to be able to set everything up, I've got a picture on my Twitter of him just getting after it, just putting everything where it needs to be. I'm like, look, I'm pretty technologically talented with all of the stuff I have to do, but he's crushing it out. So
I appreciate it. Look, there's a lot to talk about. Let's get right into it. Steve, we didn't get a chance to have you on, so wanted to get you all's thoughts on the Chiefs. Of course, they defeated the Oakland Raiders Sunday at Arrowhead 40-9. Steve, I know you predicted Chiefs will win 45-10, and so you were obviously pretty close in your prediction.
Nice. I should have placed a wager on that.
I might have to take you down to the casino with me or something and write some numbers down. But Danny, we'll start with you first. But what were your thoughts on the game going in and then coming out of it?
Well, I knew there was no way that the Raiders were going to be able to pull out a win just because of everything that they were playing and going up against with their history. I mean, Derek Carr is not good at Arrowhead Stadium. The Oakland Raiders themselves have lost 10 straight in games played in temperatures below 50 degrees. Gruden's just not very good there either. So it was one of those things that Andy Reid is really good against the AFC West. He's like, 27-4 now or something, 24-3 around there. And then also after a bye, he's 17-3 or maybe 18-3 now.
Yeah.
So all of those factors going into play, I just thought there was no way that the Raiders were going to come out with a win. Then being able to actually see it all unfold, I think two of the biggest things were the secondary has vastly improved from last year, in my opinion. They have the safeties themselves have 6 interceptions. They had 2 of them on Sunday. Last year, all of the safeties combined had 5 throughout the entire season. So I thought that was a big takeaway for me.
Steve?
You know what? I predicted that they were going to go out and smash
the
Raiders. Well, no, I mean, they took a lot of what the Jets did to only hold them to 3 points,
right,
and they were able to do that and do it even better. But I feel like this is a defensive team now with the past few weeks. I mean, Patrick Mahomes even said that he hadn't played at home in, over a month. So right. I think he wanted to come out and give a little bit more than what he actually had, and you could see that. And also Tyreek Hill not being able to play with Mahomes that many games this season.
Yeah.
I think that's they're going to have to get their flow back, and I think having fun is what they need to do to continue to do well.
Now, coming out of that game, of course, Kansas City, they now have a stranglehold on the division lead. But were there any concerns, looking how the game played out? I know the team scored 40 points, both offense, defense, and special teams. But were there any concerns coming out of the game? I think Stevie and I kind of had a little bit of concern about the offense, the fact that 2 games in a row now, Patrick Mahomes hasn't thrown for over 200 yards in the game.
Yeah, and it's like I said, the defense. I think that's where their key is right now. I feel like the defense playing well, not getting after the quarterback too much, but they're making the plays that need to be made. Like we said yesterday, that they are still having trouble stopping the run. And I feel like that's going to be an issue that they need to address. Now, they've kind of addressed the penalties, and that's only one game, so it's a small sample size. But I think that they need to figure out how to stop the run.
You know that you're spoiled as a Chiefs fan when you're talking about, man, I am so concerned about Patrick Mahomes because he hasn't thrown for 200 yards in 2 games. My goodness. No, I think Patrick looked a lot better than he has looked considering what's happened with his knee and his ankle.
Yeah.
And his ability to run for that touchdown really stood out to me. But I think when it comes to a concerning standpoint, we don't know if Damian Williams is going to be back against the Patriots. Darrell Williams left the game with a hamstring injury. We don't know if he's going to be back for the Patriots. So 2 of your top guys when it comes to the run game who have been kind of trading off the load as the workhorses back there may not be playing in one of the most important games of the season. So from my perspective, that is something that's concerning. I know LaShawn McCoy can handle it, but he's also a guy that Andy Reid mentioned. He's a little bit older, so he's got to split the carries with someone. And I thought Darwin Thompson looked good, but can you just survive through the playoffs with Darwin Thompson and LaShawn McCoy? I mean, I know they just picked up Elijah McGuire and put him on the practice squad, but honestly, I don't really know what he's capable of doing if they decide to move him up for depth. So I think the running back position, you mentioned the run game on the other side of the ball, but the run game on the offensive side of the ball is something that could be very interesting moving forward.
Well, not only that, another thing, Steve and Danny, Sammy Watkins, he has been pretty much non-existent the last 2 ball games. When Tyreek Hill went down in Mexico City, Sammy only had 2 catches for, I believe, 23, 26 yards in that game. He was targeted 3 times in Sunday's game and didn't come up with anything. That for $21 million that he's being paid this year, that's a big concern if I'm a Chiefs fan going further, especially when you know that you're going to be playing New England and you're probably going to have Stephon Gilmore shadowing Tyreek Hill throughout the game. And so you're going to need a big game from Sammy Watkins if you're expecting to win this game against the Patriots.
And I think last week Eric Bieniemy kind of alluded to this, but he didn't say it just, being forthright. But I think he's an ultimate locker room guy right now. I mean, that's the only way. Well, I mean, he's just the rah-rah, like, go get him team guy.
Well, if you're going to pay somebody that kind of money, look, me and Steve were available.
For a whole lot less money. Yeah, but he's not making the plays. We saw Sammy Watkins in week 1. And we haven't seen him since.
Yeah.
And I know he on any other team, and I've been saying this, that he'd be a number 1 receiver with the money that he's getting.
And he's being paid like one, yeah.
Yeah, so right now I think he's kind of fading to the darkness, and this, I feel like, will be his last year as a Kansas City Chief.
Look, I know that Sammy Watkins is one of those guys who's going to be cryptic on Twitter, but one of the things that stood out to me after this game was he tweeted out, when you can't control certain things, always control yourself and how you respond to them. That's true wisdom and growth. So was that kind of cryptic, saying maybe he wasn't necessarily part of this game plan because he has been good against the Patriots in the past? Maybe Andy Reid's not showing what he can do, and maybe saving some more game planning for the Patriots involving Watkins?
Nah, I just think I just think
I'm reading too far into that.
I just think he hasn't played well. And he had the big game against him in the playoffs, but that's because Belichick shut down Tyreek and he shut down Travis Kelce. So he was the third option, and so that's what Belichick will give you. Yeah, he can have a good game, but if he's having that good of a game, that means that they're doing a good job on Kelce and Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. I've heard some guys that have said, when we're in the huddle, I'm telling my quarterback, hey, get me the ball. Right. This dude can't hold me, period. And I think Sammy's not being that kind of guy right now. And if he's requiring that kind of money and he has a rapport with Mahomes is going to look at him no matter what Tyreek Hill is doing and no matter what Travis Kelce is doing. He's going to look at his guy as like, hey, give me the ball. He can't hold me. I can make it happen.
And one of the other things, and I've heard this from some people in the media, that Sammy made the comment that, I guess when Tyreek went down, he wasn't really confident in his abilities to be that main guy with Tyreek absent. Now a lot of people feed off of Tyreek because of what he can do with the defense stretching the field and stuff like that, which allowed him to have some big yardages, especially in the first game against Jacksonville. But if that's true, that is cause for concern if you're that unsure in your ability, if you don't have Tyreek there with you.
I don't think you just get bad within a couple of games. I think this is something.
It's got to be something upstairs.
It's something that's going on either with Sammy or either with coaching. I think that there's something else that has to be going on.
Well, and I think a lot of it is just a trust issue because Patrick Mahomes is going to be the first guy to tell you he trusts all of his receivers. But if he's continually getting injured and Sammy Watkins is constantly on the sideline and he's not at practices, your timing doesn't necessarily get perfected throughout the snaps that you do get. So I think that can be really tough. You've seen Tyreek Hill out, but during the offseason, Patrick Mahomes working with Tyreek, they get a lot of snaps together. There's a lot of trust there. So even when he was out with injuries, he comes back in and Patrick wants to hit Tyreek. He just wants to because he knows that he's going to be able to catch it and he's going to get there and the timing's going to be just right. When it comes to Sammy, he had the big game against Jacksonville, but then he's kind of been off and on and in practices, not in practices, like where is he? And you guys mentioned that. So I think trust is a big factor in that. because when it comes to being a quarterback and a receiver, you have to have those snaps together.
You know, and I will say this, in looking at Patrick and the stats in the last couple of weeks, I will say this: it seems as that with the wide receivers, you know, in the beginning of the season, you had big games from Demarcus Robinson, and you had a couple of games with Mecole Hardman and even Byron Pringle. Again, it seems like it's all on Kelsey and Hill right now, where those other receivers aren't really stepping up to the plate. I haven't seen or heard any big games. I think maybe Mecole had maybe a couple decent punt returns, but nothing on the offensive thing to where Patrick. That's another reason why I think that he's not having big yardages, because the other wide receivers are either dropping passes or maybe Mahomes is just out throwing them or something.
There are a few touchdowns, and I think there was one last week where they had it was Demarcus Robinson missed where he caught the touchdown and a penalty brought it back. Then you had a couple with Travis Kelce where he had some touchdowns, and that there was a penalty with that. So, and they had to bring those back. And so now they've cleared up the penalty issue, but the offense just isn't clicking as a whole. Like I said, they're not having fun. When they're having fun, he spreads the wealth. Everyone gets involved.
Yeah, I think that it just comes back to that. And I know there are a couple drops that maybe should not have happened with a couple of the receivers, and that can get in the mind of a quarterback, and it can get in the mind of a receiver. I mean, when I played, it's like if you don't reset your mindset during a game after a couple drops, it's just a snowball effect, and you just feel like you can't make any catches. So we've seen Travis Kelce kind of go through that a little bit, but he was able to kind of get back through it. He's a very mentally strong individual from that perspective. So I just think they're trying to be a more balanced offense. They're trying to not just be this passing offense. They want to run the ball, but you don't have a Kareem Hunt back there. You don't have a guy who's going to be, your number one strong back who can just be the workhorse back there. Right now, your number one guy is LaShawn McCoy. So it's tough for me to see this offense being the same that it was at the beginning of the season and finding those breakout, standout guys each game, because they're trying to be more balanced, because Patrick Mahomes hasn't necessarily been 100% throughout this stretch that they've been on.
You know, to that point, if I can jump into that
Go for
point. Darren Smith, Steve Walsh, Danny Woniak, we're live on the ship right here inside the locker room, KCTV5, the number one sports station in all of Kansas City.
Whoa, thank you.
Well, I mean, facts are facts.
Dropping the mic and walking away.
You know, facts are facts. But look, I want to ask you this. Speaking about the run game, Andy Reid, I asked him after the game about, you know, his management of Shady McCoy.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had a touchdown in the game, but I think he only had five carries, maybe 10 yards total.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't play at all against – he did play a little bit in the – I can't remember if he played in Mexico City or not.
I think he got like 2 snaps.
Yeah, he had a couple snaps. So you've claimed that you've been saving him, and you know him. You know he's been. You know, is this the game where if you're Andy Reid, now you're going to rely a lot more on Shady McCoy in this game against the New England Patriots?
I don't think you're going to have a choice, especially if Darrell and Damian are both out. You've got to rely on LaShawn McCoy. He's going to want Darwin Thompson to get some snaps, because if they need him down the stretch, he's got to be able to go in with the ones, and he can't just rely on Andrew Wiley to push him into the end zone. So I think he's a phenomenal athlete. He was so good during the preseason, and I think he has a lot of potential, but I just don't think he is going to be that number 2 guy right away during his rookie season. And LaShawn McCoy is going to have to take more snaps, and I know Andy Reid doesn't want that. He wants him to be fresh for the postseason and be ready for that run. But you got
5 attempts in the last game, he only had 10 yards. I'm not sure, you know. I mean, what kind of abuse are you going to be able to take?
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. But do they have another option? If Damian and Darrell are back, yes, they do. And then LaShawn can take a bit more of a back seat, and they can save him for that stretch run. But right now, if you're looking at it for just this week, he's going to have to take more of the snaps.
That's definitely true. But I think they're a good 1-2 punch. I mean, you have LaShawn McCoy. He's a veteran back, and I think with Andy Reid knows LaShawn's limitations, and the play calling from that standpoint kind of shows that.
Right.
And he's not able to do some of the things like you talked about earlier with Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt was able to catch the ball coming out of the backfield. He was able to get the handoff. Yeah, he was able to do a lot of things and also block. Now, I don't know if LaShawn, even being a veteran, you still kind of hear some of what the naysayers are saying. Oh, he's a fumbler. He carries the ball all crazy. Those kind of things. So I don't know if that's getting to him. I don't know if that's getting to Andy. I don't know if it's getting to Eric Bieniemy. It's something within the offense, like I said earlier, is just not clicking. And I don't know, maybe it's just they're just not having fun, like we said. I mean, that's where how they got them to where they are right now.
Yeah, and I also think, I mean, you guys have seen it on the sideline. Patrick Mahomes is a little less, hey, this is so pure, I love football so much, exactly. And more like, come on, guys, let's flip and go. Like, he's a lot more intense this year, which at first I think we all thought, hey, he knows this is Super Bowl or bust. But now maybe the pressure's on a little bit more, thinking that, hey, it is Super Bowl or bust. Like, I've got to carry this team. I have the weight of the world on me. And they're not, like you mentioned, not having as much fun as they did maybe last year because the expectations were so much less. You had a brand new starting quarterback. You had a brand new team that you're like, okay, let's see what we can do. See how far we can go. They make it to the AFC Championship game. This year, it's Super Bowl. Or they have failed. Yes.
Yeah. And to that point, look, like you said, expectations were much different. They were winning as well to start the season out more. Of course, you had the incident with Kareem Hunt, and then how it balanced out. 12-4 last year led the conference with home field advantage. You 12-4 this year, you're stuck being the 4th seed.
Yeah.
And so that's they've already lost the 4 games that they did in all of last season. Can they run the table? That's going to be it's going to start obviously with New England. But to your point, I do want to switch over to the defense, though, because they did play exceptionally well. One of the reasons why Patrick's numbers did look the way they did was because their starting field position,
was very good.
Was very good. Of course, the defense, they had 2 interceptions. Of course, the pick 6 by the rookie Juan Thornhill, and I do want to talk about that because it was such a thing of beauty when they showed highlights of it. Talking with Neil last night on the show, he mentioned that he went inside the Raiders locker room and said that he talked to Gruden as well as Derek Carr, and Derek Carr said when he came to the sidelines, like nothing really you can do about that because he anticipated, and it just broke in his direction. But how good has this defense looked in you all's eyes now that everyone seems to be healthy, minus Frank Clark coming out of that game Sunday? But how good, and is this what you all expected when Steve Spagnuolo and Brett Veach and Andy Reid put this defense together?
The front 4, I don't think they're getting a push that they need to get still. And I know they get after the quarterback, but that's after interceptions. That's after they're already down, 14 points.
And after the running back, after that, not running the ball.
The front 4, they still need to fix that. The secondary, like Danny said earlier, they are night and day from last year. You have guys that are actually making plays, they're getting stops. You had Travis Ward earlier this season where people were like, oh, he shouldn't be playing, he shouldn't be on the field. Now he's one of the best corners that they have. So I think the defense is definitely leading. The defense is definitely leading this team right now, creating the turnovers, making the plays that they need to make. And so even still, I think they kind of put the offense in a bad position because not to get back on the offense, but they have trouble scoring in the red zone. So if the defense makes these plays, don't let it lead to the offense having to be in the red zone. And I know that's a bad thing to say.
No.
But if you know your offense can't score in the red zone, make the play and try to create your own score.
I think it's so crazy that we're saying that, hey, the defense is winning games for this team. What the heck? Like, I actually thought that we were going to see a more new and improved defense a lot earlier on in the season, because when we first started the season, Spags was saying, hey, just takes a couple games.
Makes him look like a genius.
Yeah, it just takes a couple games. It's going to click at some point. And we're all like, okay, yeah, like, when is it? Let's go. Like, we're halfway through the season. Let's start clicking. But you're now finally starting to see it, and I think it's a product of communication and leadership. I think Tyrann Mathieu has gone inside that locker room and he's been able to mentor Juan Thornhill a lot. So out there when you're seeing reruns of these plays like the interceptions, Matthew's talking to Thornhill. Thornhill's talking to the defensive backs, the cornerbacks on the outside. They're talking to the linebackers, and the linebackers are talking with the D-line. Like, you see that communication going around, and you didn't see that last year. You didn't see the guys being having that kind of leadership and that kind of mentorship off of the field as well as on the field, and you're seeing that finally translate. So I think that's been the biggest thing for this defense, is that they actually have leaders who are bought into the system, and Spags is getting them to trust them because they're finally starting to see results. The run defense, of course, is going to make us a little bit nervous, and Chris Jones inside the locker room was the first one to say, yeah, it's a progression. We're getting there. We're not where we want to be just yet, and we got to stop the run. And yes, you do. You do still have to stop the run. But one thing
that is coach speak. So.
It is coach speak. It is true, but he's not wrong. And I just think, and one of the things that really bothers me, guys, is Frank Clark right now, because he has been very. I hate to say this, sorry, 55, but he has been kind of injury prone. And he said last week, look, I'm good to go. Like, that neck issue, totally in the past, no problem. So now we got a shoulder issue. So, okay, neck issues in the past. Now you got a shoulder issue. What's going on with that? He's one of those guys that they're paying big bucks to, and he needs to be out there.
No, I look, we've been talking about, if you were to think about it right now, you would say Frank has been a bust with the money that he's been paid right now. Granted, he had a good game against the Broncos. He had a good game against the Chargers, but two out of 12 is not something that,
and those aren't the best teams in the league.
Exactly.
Also true, yeah.
Now, looking ahead now, look, Steve, we've talked about it, and then get your thoughts on it. This game coming up Sunday, this is what they brought Spags in for. This game, and of course, if you were the face the Patriots in the playoffs, this is why they brought Spags in. Now, do you think it all clicks and gels together as you look in? Well, I want to wait to the next segment and talk about this game coming up. But coming out of Sunday night's game against the Texans, what did you see? That would inspire you to think that the Chiefs may have a chance in knocking them off. Because one of the things that I noticed is that it's one thing when you play the Patriots at home, right, which is what the Chiefs are going to do Sunday, and all three of us will be there in attendance. But it's another when they're on the road. But when you're in a controlled environment like Houston, where it's a dome atmosphere, where the weather's not a factor, and you let that speed come into fruition. Now, Brady doesn't have any real weapons, so to speak, but they're still 10-2. So I mean, your thoughts on what you saw in that Sunday night game?
Well, my biggest takeaway is that you can get inside their heads, because in the past it's been very difficult to outplay or outcoach Bill Belichick or outplay Tom Brady because he's so poised and he's just a leader who knows how to rally his team around him. When things started going bad against the Texans, Tom Brady was the first one to crack. You saw him go off to the sideline and almost throw his helmet, and then he's like, oh, nope, hey, trainer, take my helmet, because he was trying to play it off. But that's just the first sign.
Caught him.
Yep, because the camera caught him. And that's just the first sign of there being regression for him and that he's not playing up to what he knows he's capable of playing up to. Part of that is getting older. And then that compiled with just a snowball effect and the mental game, I think the Chiefs can probably get underneath that skin a little bit.
I think that snowball effect is not having a star receiver, also not having Gronk. Gronk has bailed Tom Brady out time after time, and that is one of the things that's not being noticed right now. Is you don't have Gronkowski, he's not able to, or Edelman.
Edelman's
that's
guy.
Not using. And I said this yesterday, and I'm still Edelman that's not using PEDs. Now he's just down. He's a normal human now, and you're able to see that. And I think they're going to have to. In order for them to get back to where they were, they're going to have to figure out. And I know, and I said this yesterday as well. These guys will run through a wall for Tom Brady. And I feel like Tom Brady knows that, and that's why he acts the way he does when he goes to the sidelines, because they're going to feed off of his emotion. If he's going crazy on the sideline, everybody else is like, oh, shoot, makes their eyes bleed.
But to that point, I mean, it did kind of work. Look, the Texans laxed off late in the ball game. I think they were leading 28-9, and then, of course, the Patriots scored, and I think it was 28 8-15 or 16, and then
not only interrupt you, but the Texans also got out of character a little
yeah, that's
bit.
what I'm saying. Yeah,
they did some things that we hadn't seen them do, which I think going back to the Chiefs, they're going to do with Andy Reid coming off a bye, and he worked on the Raiders game plan. He worked on the Patriots game plan as well.
Double game plan. Look, in that game, what I saw is, James White. I think he's going to be key for the Patriots in this ball game against the Chiefs, to where, screen, bubble passes. Look, they benched Sonny Michel, in that game, and brought James White in, and you saw what he was able to do. Brought the team back. They actually had a chance to win the game if they didn't knock the ball out of bounds, because they almost recovered the onside kick, and if they'd done that, then we see who knows what would have happened in the very end. But what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a quick timeout. We're live here inside KCTV5's The Locker Room. Steve Walls, Darren Smith, and, of course, the one and only Miss Danny Welniak. We'll take a quick break right here on the ship, and when we come back, we'll take a look at the Chiefs-Patriots this Sunday coming up here in Kansas City.
The big game is fast approaching. As you plan for the big game and do your shopping, remember, sauces and seasonings stand as our unique signature products that add flavor and excitement to all your meals, including salads and dips. For that unmistakable taste, buy Gates. It's a Kansas City tradition. Visit us on the web at gatesbbq.com. Shipping all over the world. Hi, may I help you?
Into the end zone. Touchdown, Tigers!
It's championship week, and only Sports Radio 810 and ESPN Kansas City can bring you college football's biggest games. The Pac-12 Championship, the Big 12 Championship, SEC Championship, and the ACC Championship games. All this weekend on ESPN Kansas City and Sports Radio 810. Kansas City's hometown radio station is the home of the college football playoff. Sports Radio 810, WHB.
Hi, it's Jim, and here's what's hot at Smoke and Fire. It's time for the biggest and best gas log sale. 50% off premium gas logs at unmatched prices that you don't want to miss. Smoke and Fire always has the best price and selection compared to online and the big box stores. Come in today to experience the affordable comfort that you've been craving. Think family, think friends, think Smoke and Fire.
Everyone's New Year's resolution is to look better, right? Feel better. Maybe even save some money. Well, Harry's Razors can help you do all that. Look better with a better shave. The best shave I've ever gotten is with a Harry's Razor. I made the switch back in 2015. Millions of other guys have made the switch as well. And Harry's is going to save you, if you shave every day, about $100 a year over your regular shaver. Make the switch today. Go to harrys.com. Use the promo code Petro. You'll get a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and travel cover for just $3 plus free shipping. You heard me right. harrys.com, promo code Petro, Petro. 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and travel cover, all for just $3 with free shipping for new customers. Go today. It's the best razor you're going to find anywhere at the best price. Harry's replacement cartridges are just $2. They've received 20,000 5-star reviews, and it's 100% quality guaranteed. Go today. harrys.com, promo code Petro. That's harrys.com, promo code Petro.
30 seconds. Tell me about the daily specials at the Clubhouse Experience. We have daily food and drink specials from Manic Mondays, where all wells are half off, to Old Fashioned Fridays, where J. Rieger Old Fashions are only $5. There's something for everyone at the Clubhouse Experience. There's more, right? Of course. While you're in, you have to try our e-suites and shuffleboard courts. We have 12,000 square feet of indoor fun, where you can go from playing Pebble Beach to fighting zombies with dodgeballs. Check out all our daily specials, as well as our e-tainment options at theclubhouseexperience.com, or come see us at 1101 Walnut downtown.
All right, we're back here on the ship here on ESPN Kansas City, 94.5 FM, 1510 AM, live from inside KCTV5's The Locker Room. Darren Smith, Steve Walls, Sports Director, Ms. Danny Welniak. Look, there's a lot to talk about as it relates to Sunday's game. The three of us will be there in Foxborough covering the game for our respective outlets. Danny, the game is going to be on your station.
KCTV5.
You know what I'm saying? Look, I don't care what they say. When come next year, it's still going to be on KCTV5.
Yep, the Chiefs play here during the regular season, just in case anybody was wondering.
Exactly. It's a CBS affiliate, so don't get it twisted. Danny, look, your thoughts as we go into this game. What matchup, what's your main take if there is a concern as these teams play 325 here locally, 425 in Boston?
Okay, so I'm going to take this question. I'm going to kind of twist it because I was inside the locker room after the game, and I thought it was really interesting the fact that I spoke with Travis Kelce first, and he said, look, a lot of people are really looking forward to this matchup because it's a rematch of the AFC Championship game. And for me, it's just another game. He was part of the team that won it 2 years ago with Alex Smith.
Yep.
And so he knows what it takes to win up there. He was very calm, cool, and collected. When we asked Patrick Mahomes on the podium about it, I think you were in there, he said, look, Alex was a part of the last time that we actually beat the Patriots. I haven't beat them yet. So Patrick went up there last year in a shootout. It was close, lost a close one. Back here at Arrowhead, lost a close one in the AFC Championship game. So it means a little something more to him, I think, because he wants to beat Tom Brady. He wants to be able to have that notch in his belt to say, look, I can compete and I can beat the best of the best, and he doesn't quite have that yet.
And to that point, Deshaun Watson was the same way. He was 0-2. It meant a lot for him Sunday night to beat Tom Brady, who he considers the GOAT.
And Tom Brady is the GOAT. And so it's going to be like the matchup of Kobe Bryant going up against Michael Jordan. It's going to be Allen Iverson going up against Michael Jordan. It's going to be
basketball references.
And
I don't know, Michael Jordan, though.
But you could see time is undefeated. Exactly. So I think Patrick Mahomes is going to go up there. Two totally different teams from last year. They're going to play lights out. And they understand what it means for them to be able to win in Foxborough and during this season before the end of the season when it's going to – let's face it, when it comes to the end of the season, they want to be able to go wherever they have to play and say, hey, we beat the almighty Patriots during the regular season. So they're going to need that confidence going into the end of the season.
Especially if you have to go back up there, obviously.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. I'm like, yeah, Mahomes said it. He's like, the road to the Super Bowl goes through the Patriots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but now there's another team that's out there called the Baltimore Ravens who have something to say about that. Now, look, there is an outside, and I mean an outside chance that the Chiefs could still get the number one seed, but I think that the loss against the Titans really hurt them as it relates to that. Obviously, they'd have to beat New England. They would then jump New England. Of course, they'd still be tied with no, I'm sorry, take that back. No.
They have the tiebreaker.
Actually, no, well, they would still be number 4 because New England would only have 3 losses. So New England would have to lose to the Bills when they face them a little bit later. And, for them to jump in, the problem is you have the Texans. Texans have to lose another game. Mm-hmm. And then you're looking at Buffalo. Buffalo would have to beat Baltimore this weekend, and they would still have to lose another game as well. So there's too many variable factors that I don't think is going to happen. I think she's going to host one home. I think they're going to host a wild card game, and then then the three of us will be road tripping once.
I think it's going to be a domino effect with the Patriots, and I said this all season. They had the cakewalk early in the season, and now they're facing some tough opponents, and then the tough opponents that they faced already with the Texans, with Baltimore Ravens, the teams that are able to get after you on defense, they've had trouble with.
Look, and to your point, to that point, the Patriots should have lost to the Eagles, and the Cowboys should have gotten them when they went to Foxborough. Right. And maybe we're not even having this discussion. But look, before we go back to the Patriots game, is there a team that the Chiefs could possibly face in the playoffs that makes you a little bit nervous about them playing?
Definitely the Ravens. It's definitely the Ravens. Because they beat them the first time, but the Ravens were able to come back into that game and almost win that game. I just think that matchup is so... It's not great for the Chiefs the second time around.
Especially if you can't stop the run.
Right.
I said this yesterday that the Ravens, we know what they are now. I think they've hit their ceiling as far as what they're going to be this year. Yeah, and with the Chiefs, you don't know exactly. They haven't hit their ceiling this year. First game against Jacksonville, okay, they were on all cylinders, but the defense wasn't playing well. Now you have the defense playing good, but the offense, they haven't been what they have been since Patrick Mahomes has been injured and come back from injury. So they haven't hit their stride.
I agree, but you still got to be able to stop the run. That's just fundamental football. And for a team that's averaging over 200 yards a game,
correct.
If you can't stop the run, Patrick's gonna be on the sidelines, just looking at us. And then by the time he gets in, he's not going to be in the rhythm with his receivers, which is going to put more pressure on the play calling and the players to hurry up and score because because you don't know when you're going to get back on the field.
And some people wonder, can you stop the run? Is that a night and day thing? And I think it's all mano, it's willpower, being able to do what you can do, and give that push on the front four. Like I said, they have to do more and have a better job. But like I said, they haven't hit their ceiling yet, and you don't know if they have a full game and put it together where defense is getting turnovers. Patrick Mahomes is throwing for 300-400 yards. Everybody's touching the ball.
That's a dream. That's a dream, though. That's if everything is perfect. And so far, have the Chiefs had a game that everything's been perfect? I don't think so.
This season?
Maybe with Matt Moore at the helm, because all three phases had to execute according to Andy Reid.
If that's the case, it would have been Sunday's game, Oakland. That would have been as close to perfect as they would without any penalties.
Going into the playoffs, if they can play the way that they played against the Rams, if they can play the way that they played against the Rams and have that full game, last year's Rams.
If they gave up 54 points too, Steve. But
with the defense playing a little bit better, though. If you can have that perfect storm.
Well, the Chiefs aren't having those shootouts, though, this year either, which I think is so crazy. Like, 40 points was normal last year, and this year we're like, whoa, they put up 40 points against the Raiders. Like, that's crazy. They've been averaging like 20-ish in the mid-20s.
Right. See, and that was one thing that I said at the beginning of the season. Like, I felt that if this team could just do what they did in the first game, even without Tyreek, if they're healthy, they score 40 points. I don't see another team, whether our defense was good or not, will be able to outscore. And that's why, I go back to saying that at that time, I felt they could go 19-0 because I felt everything was going to be clicking on all cylinders. Now, we didn't account for injuries and, Sammy Watkins, losing confidence in his ability or whatever. But, those things happen. Going back to the game Sunday, I'm interested in the television aspect of what we're going to see. We're going to be in the press box, but I can assure you there's going to be times throughout the game it's going to be a split screen. You're going to see Andy Reid on one side, Bill Belichick on the other side, and they're going to be talking about chess games and matchups and mind games. I think that does have an effect. Look, again, we talked about it yesterday, Steve. It's one thing if the Chiefs come in with Alex Smith, you have no film on Kareem Hunt, so you don't know what to expect, and he balls that has about 250 yards of total offense in the season opener 2017. But now he was always, I felt, the equalizer in that even last year when the team went up to Foxborough, they balled out. The problem with that ended up happening, and I mentioned to Patrick after the game, was you left too much time on the clock for Tom Brady. Same thing happened here in Kansas City. Now, in Kansas City, when they faced him in the championship game, Kansas City only had like 260, 70 yards of total offense. The Patriots had over 500 yards of offense. Now, the play calling was a concern because they went into the locker room trailing 21-3. Chiefs had to forcibly come up with 24 points within the last 3 minutes of the ball game to even get the game close to overtime or even in overtime before the whole D Ford massacre took place. But I don't know. Is it me? To me, I don't want Andy Reid out-coaching himself in his ball game when it matters most, and that's, of course, going to be in the fourth quarter. Because you saw what the Texans did. They blew the Patriots out early, and they let them back in the ball game. That's my concern. Like, you blew the Raiders out. You never gave up, and you never let your foot off the gas pedal to let them in the game. I just feel like somehow, some way in this game, that's going to end up happening in Foxborough on Sunday.
I think they just overthink it because every time we go into this matchup, we're always asking Andy Reid, how good is it to play against your really good friend, like you and Bill Belichick are like this, like your best buds. And he'll tell you how much he respects him, how much he's learned from him. But you go up there and you see them face each other, and it's like almost like Andy Reid is facing a great mentor. And so there's a little bit of nerves there as well. Or maybe it's just overthinking, like, hey, what's he thinking? If you're hanging out with your best friend, you're constantly thinking, hey, do they like what we're eating? This is what they like to do? Do they like what we're doing? And I think from that perspective, it's almost kind of like what goes on there is like, oh, hey, I know you so well that I think you're going to do this, so I'm going to do this. When Belichick's like not thinking that way at all. He's like, nope, I know you well enough that I'm just going to stick to what I do best, and you're going to overanalyze this.
I think Andy Reid's biggest thing is being consistent. Like he doesn't have that consistency of knowing what this team is and doing exactly that. And we talk a lot about last year with Kareem Hunt and him being the X factor going up into Foxborough playing the Patriots. But you don't realize, I guess people don't realize that Kareem Hunt was more in the passing game than anything. He only had 10 carries for 80 yards. So, and Patrick Mahomes was the second leading rusher in that game. So Kareem Hunt was effective in the passing game. That's what this team is. They're a passing team, and I think that if you can get Shady McCoy involved with that and now Darwin Thompson involved with that, they can do some of the same things that they were able to do last year.
Yeah. And I also think that was one thing that Andy Reid mentioned that he was impressed with Darwin this past week, was that he was able to pick up in pass protection. He's able to pick up those blitzes and to be able to do things that, Kareem Hunt was very efficient at. And LaShawn has been pretty good at as well, which helps with the passing game. If you're able to, stand inside the pocket and be able to pick up those blitzes, well, then that's also going to make you more effective when you swing out and you're able to, get those swing passes and you're able to catch balls out of the backfield.
Right.
So I think that's one thing Darwin's got to get better at. But Reid was also talking about how much better he has become since the beginning of the preseason.
And to Darwin's credit, he was playing a game with a heavy heart. His high school coach had passed away, and so I think that was another reason why they wanted to make sure he got the carries and got into the end zone. We just got an email from the NFL. The Chiefs have a chance to clinch the AFC West title on Sunday if they win at New England and Oakland loses Sunday. Chiefs will win the division for the 4th straight season.
That's huge. I mean, compared to where we were looking at last week.
But it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
That's the thing. They could win 10 straight AFC West titles, but if they don't win the big one, what does it matter?
And let's just face it, the AFC West hasn't been strong at all.
Does that make us spoiled? Does that make Chiefs Kingdom spoiled? You're like, you haven't won AFC West titles for the first time ever. They're back-to-back AFC West champs.
Yeah, I think this would be a record, I think, in the AFC West for the teams here. Look, I want to ask the question, how much pressure is going to be on the Chiefs this season to make it to – you don't have to win it, but at least make it to the Super Bowl based off of expectations and where they were last season, where they were just, a penalty away from going to the Super Bowl?
That's it. In my opinion, it's Super Bowl or bust. I mean, we've seen the season play out. That's the way it was at the beginning of the year, was everybody believed that this team could go back. They're one penalty away. They're just one touchdown away from making the Super Bowl. That was the expectation. It still is the expectation because throughout the 16-week regular season, there's going to be adversity. There's going to be injuries. Every team deals with it. So the Chiefs, in my opinion, we knew all of this stuff was probably going to happen, maybe not to the extent that it did happen, and goodness forbid, there was a moment that we all thought that Patrick Mahomes was down, so all of the Super Bowl dreams were out the window, but he's still there. So in my opinion, if Patrick Mahomes is still under center, the expectation is to at least get to a Super Bowl. Maybe not necessarily win it, but to get there.
I think it's more Andy Reid being on the chopping block.
Been saying it for the longest.
Yeah, he's on that chopping block no matter what he's done, no matter what how the Hunts feel about him. I feel like he's on that chopping block. Yeah, he's because you've had all this talent. Just looking at the past 3 years, he's had all this talent, and what have they shown for it? A loss in the AFC Championship. Of course, you got the AFC Championship. You brought the AFC Championship game, but you didn't win it. Now you're kind of like reverting to when you had Alex Smith. We've had people say that they're going to be a 1-and-out in the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
I mean, so last year going in, it was like, oh, this team is so well. Who can beat this team? They're rolling. They have a quarterback who no one can stop.
And last year's team was beating itself because they led the league in penalties, and it was penalties that did them in at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
That and the defense to where, I still, for the life of me, I just thought it was a coaching malpractice where if you're the head coach, if you see something's not working defensively, even though you try to turn that side over to them, look, man, you're the head coach. You got to rein things in sometimes. They blitzed. They went after Andrew Luck in last year's divisional game where, Andrew Luck didn't know what was hitting him. And then the next week, you play with kid gloves against Tom Brady. And, you never once blitzed him, never once tried to hit him. I think he may have got hit once throughout the game where he was just picking you apart. And, if you're the head coach and, again, like you said, you brought the AFC Championship game to Kansas City, You brought the Hunt Trophy to Kansas City. The owner
passed through Kansas City, put it that way.
Yeah, passed through Kansas City, and instead of you hand it off to Clark Hunt, Bill Belichick intercepts it and runs it back to the Patriots locker room on the way to the Super Bowl. It's something to me, like you said, that somebody, if this team doesn't make it to Miami, somebody has to pay. So somebody's job has to fall, because you kind of like the Dallas Cowboys, where you got a coach that's been there so long, where you just don't. You accept what's being given. Andy Reid's a good coach, a great coach, and I'm not going to take anything away from him. But like you said, with all this talent, if you can't win the big game, maybe a different voice, a different sound, someone else needs to come in and maybe take over.
And I think it's going to be.
Because it did happen with the Tampa Bay Bucks. With Tony Dungy was there a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
John Gruden came in after he was fired. John Gruden came in the very next season, took the team Super Bowl. Happened with the Colts. I think a period of time they couldn't win it, but they brought Tony Dungy in. He coached the defense up. That's what Peyton Manning was missing, was the defense. Next you know, they knock off New England. They knock off the Bears in the Super Bowl, and they got their Super Bowl.
You know what? It's not. I guess it's not fair for me to say this, but it's gonna fall. Who's gonna fall on the sword is the offense coordinator. Eric Bieniemy is gonna have to fall on that sword, and he's gonna. I ain't let that happen. But we don't want it to happen. But I think
be a head coach somewhere.
He's gonna leave and go be a head coach, and then it's gonna be now we got this new offensive coordinator coming in. We got this offensive mind. Andy Reid has to let those reins go and let it be someone else, because I have not seen this happen where there's a head coach who runs the offense, who just lets the defensive coach do their thing. He goes over and sits by the quarterback for the entire what other head coach does that in the NFL? I don't see that happen.
He hasn't been doing that as much this year, though, as he was last year, because he was mentoring Patrick.
He was out
right. So he had to play that middleman. One thing I was just looking up, you guys, was you were talking about Andy Reid, and how long do you give him until he needs to get to a Super Bowl? So with Philadelphia, it took him 6 seasons to get to that Super Bowl. He has been here. This is his 7th season in Kansas City. So then the question becomes, is that how you base what he needs to accomplish, is based off of what he did in Philadelphia, or are you going to give him a little bit longer because he does have Patrick Mahomes at the helm?
You know what? We're going to answer that. We got to take a quick time out. We still got bills to pay. Darren Smith, Steve Walsh, Danny Welniak on the ship right here on ESPN Kansas City, 94.5 FM, 1510 AM, presented by Gates Barbecue. We'll be right back.
The big game is fast approaching. As you plan for the big game and do your shopping, remember, sauces and seasonings stand as our unique signature products that add flavor and excitement to all your meals, including salads and dips. For that unmistakable taste, by Gates. It's a Kansas City tradition. Visit us on the web at gatesbbq.com. Shipping all over the world. Hi, may I help you?
Holiday Magic, brought to you by Shane Company.
A red ruby necklace, because her fire still lights up your life.
A blue sapphire pendant and the matching earrings. One gift from you and one from the kids.
A classic pendant with your new baby's birthstone, because this year she became a mom.
The magic of Shane Company jewelry is that it allows you to capture your story with something that will last forever. Each of these great gifts from our holiday collection is under $1,000. Our non-commissioned sales team is warm and welcoming. We'll help you find perfect gifts.
Hi, I'm Tom Shane. One of my favorites is our floating diamond solitaire pendant with a decorative setting. It comes in a range of carat sizes and starts at $685.
Come in and unwrap the magic of jewelry.
Now you have a friend in the jewelry business. Shane Company, open weekdays, Saturdays, and Sundays from 10 till 8 and online at shaneco.com.
Hey folks, this is Nate Bucati. You know, a lot of people love to drink craft cocktails and mixed drinks, but you don't want to have all that stuff sitting around at your house. It can get expensive and time-consuming to carry all the ingredients. Well, that's why the folks at Keurig came up with an amazing new machine called the Drink Maker. It comes with different pods for different drinks. You want a margarita, you drop in the pod, you push a button, and a minute later, an ice-cold margarita comes out. Same with the gin and tonic. They've got mixed drinks for everything. And I've got great news for you, because right now this brand-new machine can be had for $100 off the original asking price. And just for my listeners, you can take another $50 off for a total savings of $150. And they'll throw in the shipping for free. Just go to drinkworks.com. That's DRINKWORKS.com. Use my code NATE50 at checkout and save an extra $50 and get free shipping. That's drinkworks.com. Use the promo code NATE50 at checkout. And remember, please enjoy responsibly.
A Christmas tradition that brings joy to hearts is giving gifts to those we love. But for our homeless and low-income neighbors in Kansas City, the simplest gifts are extras they just can't afford. But you can help bring hope to them this Christmas by donating to City Union Mission's Christmas store. Qualified families can shop for free and bring holiday spirit to their loved ones. Donate online during the City Union Mission One-Day Blitz this Thursday, December 5th at missionchristmas.org. That's missionchristmas.org. Help bring Christmas to your community today.
We're back on the ship here on ESPN Kansas City, 94.5 FM, 1510 AM, 1510.com, and Facebook Live. Darren Smith, Steve Walls, Danny Welniak. Danny, thank you, and thank KCTV5 for opening up their doors to us this morning.
Absolutely.
We are going to try to do this weekly. I would like to do it on Tuesdays because that's the off days for the Chiefs and whatever, so we can all kind of be down here and do this. But I want to thank you. How can people catch you on social media? What do you have going on this, on the locker room and stuff? Give our folks an update.
Well, every night we try to have a different guest from around the Kansas City area, an expert, as we like to call them, such as yourselves, to give some opinions on your experts, professionals on the Locker Room Show. That's on KSMO from 7 to 7:30. And then, of course, we are on every day, 4, 5, 6 o'clock, and 10 o'clock on KCTV5. And then also you can follow me at KCTV Danny on Twitter. Instagram is Danny_Rogers89. And then also on Facebook is Danny Welniak.
Steve Walls, KC on all social media. Find me 100.1 FM, The W Show, every Saturday morning. Tune in, join us. We like to have conversations. So at Steve Walls, KC, at The W Show, KC.
Now, look, we are going, of course, to New England. Got about 2.5, 3 minutes left. Danny, your final thoughts on that game, and if you want to pick a winner, be our guest.
Oh, you're going to let me pick a winner?
Of course.
Well, I'm a bit of a homer, so I'm going to say that the Chiefs end up winning this one, but I do think that it's going to be crazy close, like down to a field goal close. And I'm just hoping for a shootout. Like, I want it to be the shootout that it was last year up there in New England, and we're sitting there looking at it, and I'm like getting all the feels of putting up lots and lots of yards and lots of touchdowns. So, you know what? Let's get a little crazy. Let's say that Patrick Mahomes looks amazing and Tom Brady's on his game, and let's say it's like 45-42 Chiefs.
That would just let y'all ratings go even higher than what it already is for a number one station, Steve.
35-17. I'm going to stick with my score because you think I bounce around on all these shows.
Even your producer says that you do.
Yeah, but 35-17, I'm going to stick with my score. I think that this is going to go back to but the Menard Pollard year. What was that? 2008, where Tom Brady was injured and went out. But I'm not saying Tom Brady's going to be injured, but I think it's going to be that kind of game where the Chiefs just control it.
Well, I'm going to say this, and I'm still going to pull a Steve Walls, but I think it really comes down to who has the ball last. I mean, and that's what it.
Wait, like the AFC Championship game,
and like the game last year. I mean, if you leave Tom Brady with, you can leave him damn near with a minute or 30 seconds left, and he can still walk it down the field.
Not with this team.
That's the key.
No.
Now, what worries me the most, man, again, is not saying what happens on the field. It's going to be on the sidelines. And so because of that, I think I'm going to have to go with the Patriots, 27-24.
Okay.
27-24. Look, I told Steve yesterday, I want the Chiefs to win, but they still have to show me that you can beat it. Look, you just prove me wrong. I mean, but it's not about proving me wrong, by proving yourselves right that you can beat this team. Go up to New England, hit the bully in his mouth, and beat him. You do that, hey, I'm with you. So, for Steve Walls, Danny Welniak, Darren Smith, we have been inside the locker room here on KCTV5 studio. We appreciate this very much, and thank you all for joining us right here on the ship. We'll be back tomorrow, 23 hours from now, on the ship with Darren Smith here on ESPN Kansas City, 94.5 FM, 1510 AM, 1510.com, and Facebook Live. We are out of here.